Morning, everybody. Welcome back. Last week of lectures, let me introduce you very quickly what is the plan for today and for tomorrow. Starting from tomorrow, which is easier. Tomorrow is the last round of exercises. It will be much less structured than in the last Tuesdays, as I already said. I will give you 4 examples of exams, past exams, and you are free to solve them in the order that you want, to ask me questions. There will be no, how to say, no plenary sessions. You will be given, probably since the beginning, I need to still to decide the solution also. So it will be unstructured. And I will be there to answer questions, to help you in solving doubts, issues, so that you can also test yourself on some real exams, trying to solving them, and whatever doubts you have, you ask me. I will propose, as usual, that you first try to do it alone, and then you do it in group. This by experience helps a lot. Regarding today, 75% of the time that we will spend today will not be part of the exam material. 25% yes, and this will be very important. You need to discover which, no, I'm kidding. I will tell you which is the part that is really important. Let's start from thesis proposals. I know that this course is at the first year of the of your master degree, so that you will start thinking to thesis only next year, probably, or in a few months. And I also know that this course is in parallel with the most important course in the whole master's degree, which is data, machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is also requires you a lot of effort. And anyway, here you find, you will always find at this URL an updated list of my thesis proposal. So today I will give you just a short overview of the current thesis proposals. If you connect at this URL in 6 months, the situation will be a bit different. So this is why, since I am aware that it's not a terminal course along your path, you know that by connecting to this URL, you can find the most updated thesis. Sometimes some theses are available only for one person. I'm not so quick to update them on the portal, so it might be that if you ask me about a particular thesis that is no longer available, but there are exceptional cases. It's also possible to propose me a topic and then to build the thesis together. Actually, this is the most successful way to make a thesis, because it really follows your interest, and this is also a possibility. One PhD student who is doing the doctorate with me at the moment started like this. He came to me with a few ideas, and we built the thesis together. Now, we already have a seminar on with Clearbox AI, so you know what kind of technologies they develop. They have space for 2 theses with them at a given moment. So they ask me not to have more than 3 people at the same moment. So it doesn't mean that the thesis proposal are only 2. There are 2 for a given period. Because they are a small enterprise and they cannot supervise more. This is a general, at this link, every title that you see in this presentation is a link on the PDF. This is a quite general introduction, because the actual topic evolves with the needs of the company, but also with the interest of the person asking the thesis with Clearbox AI. Shalini takes care on person most of the time, so the selection, so they will decide who they can accept. Another startup, which has been founded by a member of the Nexa Center, is Column. It is less well known than Clearbox AI, but it is a very friendly environment. It is focused on the business of information and newspaper informations. The business model is the following one. Instead of let the person have multiple accounts in different newspaper sites, they provide access to given topics, and so that you don't have to pay a yearly subscription to, let's say, La Stampa, Il Resto del Carlino, La Repubblica, and any level, local and national. You express as a user your interest, and you will get access to specific topics. So one thesis that is at the moment available is on leveraging semantic technologies to extract what are the trendy topics in a given period of time, in a given geographic area. So given a set of requirements. Also, in this case, the final selection is done directly by my colleague that has founded the startup. His last thesis with them was continued with a contract, a work contract with a startup. This is also possible at Clearbox AI. Of course, you should have already imagined that such type of thesis with small companies are not like doing a thesis with Reply. Then most of the time you follow the work, you continue the work as an employee. Then you find maybe also a long-term career over there. So if this is your objective, don't come ask thesis with me and with these companies, because these are a totally different environment. There is possibility of then after the teasing making a regular contract, but it depends a lot of factors, and you should see it as a first experience, of course. Then you will find a lot of research experimental theses. They are both in the ambit of the activities of the Nexa Center and also in the activities with the software engineering group. I'm part of both research group, as I am a software engineer, as you know. So you will find some of these theses in which there are two supervisors, myself and Professor Torchiano, and others in which only me is the supervisor. And those are, if only me is present, means that it's only a thesis with the Nexa Center. The first two theses are quite similar. The first is general, the second one is specific to ChatGPT. And the first one is about trying replicating state-of-the-art techniques to auditing online services. There are successful experiences in auditing websites like Facebook, like Amazon, like YouTube, in order to understand whether there is a systematic discrimination towards certain social groups or different disparate outputs. And the idea is to replicate these techniques in smaller services, maybe a local level. One example was found by colleagues at the University of Padova a couple of years ago. It's online insurance companies in Italy gave different quotes depending on the different nation of birth, and this is illegal. And they did it with a specific auditing technique, automatizing interaction with the website and collecting some data with a careful experiment design. So the idea is to select together with the student the specific service and try what is the most adapt technique. always auditing, but specific to ChatGPT mostly, but not exclusively, is the thesis on stressing testing chatbots, in which several aspects of problematic aspects that are at the moment have been identified by OpenAI itself and by several independent researchers about factuality, capability of deductive reasoning, abstraction, and other safety challenges and other issues. And the idea is to making a battery, a set of stress tests that understand how these different aspects are problematic and to which extent are still problematic with ChatGPT. Then, third topic is the continuation of PhD work that has finished at the moment, in which imbalance measures that are synthetic measures that identify how much a dataset is unbalanced towards one specific characteristics, let's say, for example, gender or age, or a combination of multiple characteristics. And these metrics are used as risk indicators. So the higher is the imbalance, the higher is the probability that at the output you will get a polarized outcome. Classifications that are mostly towards gender, let's say, or towards a specific instance of age group. The idea is to continue that research, trying it out, different other additional measures, and with additional algorithms. Then last thesis is a bit more statistical mathematical, is on testing the reliability of conference and journal rankings in computer science. One of the examples I gave you when explaining you what is the Goodhart's law and the reflexivity problem was about the evaluation of Italian researchers, which is semi-automated. The idea is to try to understand how much reliable are those indexes, are those ranks, how much they are resistant to little changes into the input, how much they measure all the space, let's say, of the all conferences and ranked and journal existing in computer science. For example, one of the most used rankings on conference is able to capture only 20% of existing conferences. So the idea is to test, to verify the space of validity, verify the robustness of these rankings, and try to extend them, to improve them with additional metrics, additional measures that should be then also automatically applied. There will be need interaction with Google Scholar and with other, through APIs, for example, and with other platforms that indexes millions of papers published either in conference or in journal rankings. Then, last three current thesis topics are the first one is on mining GitHub to understand what is the level of dependence of open source projects on large pre-trained models. As you know, only a few companies in the world can afford to build large models, very large models. ChatGPT is just one. GPT, sorry, is just one of the many that are made in artificial intelligence research and development. And the idea is to understand how much the open source ecosystem is dependent on this large model, because a high level of dependability means that there is a risk of decreasing the innovation that resides in an open source large community or large repository as the one of GitHub. So this thesis implies writing some scripts that tries to identify automatically when which type of models are used and how, and to elaborate some statistics. a dashboard also is possible to be built. I'll jump to the last one, and then because it's similar, and then I will come back to the one in the middle. Massive analysis of Italian open data quality. This is related to improving and scaling a set of tools, measuring tools that we already have developed through the years. And the idea is to try to understand with such tools how much open data that is published in data.gov.it, so the Italian open government data, how much is reliable in terms of accuracy, of completeness, and other simple data measures, data quality measures, that even though they are quite simple, we still observe that they are very, very good at identifying basic problems in the publishing procedures of open government data, especially, of course, with small public organizations. Municipalities do not have the same budget as ministry have, for example, when publishing open government data. As you know, this is required by law. The public administration must make most of their data public. This is something that was introduced for the first time by the first term of Obama in USA, and then several governments followed. Last, this is in a different realm. This is on privacy issues, and as you might know, there are several plugins or web browser extensions that let you navigate, stopping the data flow between you and the websites. And these are called anti-tracking browser extensions. They function differently. Some of them are very good at blocking data flow from and to the big companies. Other are not so good with big companies, but are very good with less known trackers. The general idea is to try to make a first comparison, to try to evaluate them, making some experiments, selecting a set of websites, and then analyze the traffic flow, and then understanding how they can be combined to achieve the highest possible protection in terms of data tracking. So it was a long list, but the idea was just to give you an overview of what are the topics that I cover personally or through collaborations with small companies. Do you have questions? Okay. I always remind you that you can have an updated list by connecting also in the future to this link, or in any case by searching in the web portal thesis on my name. So you will get the same page. Okay. Now, last topic of the course is deontology. At the beginning and in several other occasions, I reminded you the three main strengths of normative ethics: consequentialism, where we could place the fairness quantitative measures; virtue ethics, where we could place the fairness qualitative assessment, which is based on value-based design; and finally, deontology. Deontology tries to define for a given profession what are your obligations, your moral obligations, and professional obligations. So it's a bit for those of you who made philosophy in the high school is a Kantian approach, trying to define a priori what are the moral obligations, considering duty and rights. You apply deontology to professions. This is part of the 25% of today's lecture, which is part of the exam. And this is the ACM Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. I uploaded it, and you are required to read it and to know how it is organized and to know specific aspects that I will comment to you now. It is organized in 4 main sections: the general ethical principles, the professional responsibilities that are derived from the principles, and principles of professional leadership, either formal leadership or informal leadership. The last section is less interesting from our point of view. It is on code compliance. I decide on purpose to make the analysis of the CM Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct at the end of the course, even though it gave input for the design of the course. And I decided to do this because I think that read a posteriori, it gives sense to all the aspects that we have seen during the course, and to the methodology that I used to analyze some specific problems. Let me take the code, because we will read together a few sections. I will comment them. ACM is a professional organization of computer engineers. It counts more than 100,000 members all over the world. Is, together with IEEE, is the most important professional association in our field, including both professionals and academics. So it's not a thing of academics. It's rather a thing for professionals, computer engineers that they work in companies or in public organizations. Okay. We read most of the preamble because it gives us an idea of the pillars, in which the conceptual pillars of the code. We start from the first paragraph, in which I would like to capture your attention on this word, public good. Regardless of the place, whether it will be a company, whether it will be an organization, a public organization, whether it will be third sector, whether you will be teaching. If you are a member of the ACM association, your first concern is the public good. And this is a recurring term in the whole code. It will be repeated several times. It will be the focus even of some specific articles. And this will be I think that this is the most important concept of this code. The highest concern for our profession is the public good, given the impact of digital technologies and data-driven digital technologies on our life, on the way we organize our collective life, on the impact on individual life, and in the way it allocates through algorithms. We allocate benefits or penalties. We give opportunities to people or not, as we have seen through several cases. This is not a code against companies. This is a code for companies, as I told you. So public good is not in contrast with profit. You have an obligation to contribute to the economical well-being of the companies and in general the organizations in which you will work. And in the same time, public good is still the most important concern. So there is no conflict about this aspect. The code is designed to inspire and guide ethical conduct of all computing professionals, as I was saying. Either they are practitioners, instructors, students, influencers, anyone who is using digital technologies as a means of working. As I told you, and this is also repeated here, the public good is always the primary consideration of computing professionals. Then you have the explanation of the organization that I already told you, principles, section 1, professional responsibility, section 2, principles, ethical principle for leaders. They are specific category, they have higher responsibility, and then compliance to the code, section 4. I guide you through a couple of other points in the last paragraph. The code is not a checklist, first. It's not an algorithm or an heuristic that helps you in solving ethical problems. No, it is the basis for ethical decision-making in your profession. But it's not a checklist. It's not a heuristics with steps to follow. It's not that. So this means that you will always deal with uncertainty. And you can only base your decisions based on the pillars of this code. But this doesn't remove your own responsibility and your own decision, your autonomy on making decisions. Questions to the doubts, the issues that you will encounter can best be answered by thoughtful considerations of the fundamental ethical principles that are elaborated and presented in this code, understanding, again, that public good is the paramount consideration. So we encountered in this introduction 3 times already public good as a term, and it will come many other times. So if there are no questions on this introduction, we'll move now to section 1, that are the general ethical principles. Section on 1.1, you have more specifically the aspects in which you should take particular attention during your work. And those are intended as contributions of your work to society and to the human well-being, as well as avoiding harm, as that is the next following principle. You have several aspects in which you have an obligation. So you have an obligation to take care of the quality of life of people, both individually and collectively, through the digital tools that you build. You have aspects regarding human rights, fundamental human rights. And we have seen several examples during the course. You have aspects, obligations regarding protecting the autonomy of people. We have seen several cases in which such autonomy was somehow challenged, at least. You should take care of avoiding threats to health, physical and mental, safety, personal security, privacy. And this is a very important aspect that gives the explanation on why so much focus was given in this course to vulnerable people, and it is even written in the official sheet of the course, with a special eye on vulnerable people. When the interests of multiple groups conflict, the needs of those less advantaged should be given increased attention and priority. So this is a professional obligation that you have to give priority to most vulnerable people when there are conflicting aspects. This is not, of course, this is not only an aspect of the ethical code of ACM. This is a general inspiration of also primary laws. But this gives you also the explanation on why the whole course was designed in this way. Because the impact of digital technologies can easily exacerbate existing inequalities. This is not good for the well-being of society and especially democratic societies. You have then, through the rest of the paragraph, obligation towards accessibility, environmental sustainability, and diversity. This is also an important aspect when building social tools. And finally, social needs, whatever they are as generic term. So in this chapter, you find the most important aspects that you should take care. You should have an active role, not only a passive role, avoiding harm, but you should contribute, as it is written, to society and to human well-being. It follows harms, which is complementary to the first part. What kind of harms? You will find when you will study this code some examples here. Unjustified physical or mental injury, unjustified destruction or disclosure of information, unjustified damage to property, reputation, and the environment. There are a certain number of early legal disputation with ChatGPT, for instance, for damage of reputation of people, which was falsely accused by the tool of sexual harassment, of any other, for example, this regarded a professor in the USA, of wrong usage of public money. This regarded a major in Australia. This is the result of using spurious correlations as outcomes of a tool, so nothing new, but it is an obligation that you cannot make unjustified damage, harm to the reputation of people. So you cannot say it's fault of the user who made the wrong prompt. No, it's fault of. This has also legal aspects involved. This is fault of the way the tool is built. I would like to point you to this then to this aspect, because it's mostly related to data science. The consequence of data aggregation and emergent properties of systems, so properties that you cannot plan in advance, should be carefully analyzed in order to avoid harms. And it follows, computing professional, having said all this example of harms, and they say that you should avoid harms, a computing professional has an additional obligation to report any signs of system risk that might result in harm. So in advance, you need to be proactive. We have seen in this course a very specific type of risk. That is, I selected that one because it's the most close to data science, and it is the most also impactful at the moment. And that's why also I decided to build around the concept of risk also the exam. The concept of risk, you know, from the first part with Mantelero and Vaciago, has been chosen with some limitation, but this was the choice by the European Union to regulate AI with a system risk approach. Now let's go, and I will jump because I cannot read, I cannot make a lecture reading a code, but as you know, you are expected to read it all. I will jump to the most important parts. 1.4, be fair and take action not to discriminate. This is regarded not only in your job place. So not discriminate with your behavior, not discriminate with the organization of the work, and towards whom. Again, the classical protected attributes that we already well know at this moment of the course, this part of the course. Age, color, disability, ethnicity, family status, gender identity, labor union membership, military status, and so on. the so-called protected attributes, in several legislations all over the world, and at a higher level of human rights perspective. As I was saying, not only in your job place, but also with the usage of information technologies. The use of information technology may cause new or enhance existing inequities. This is what we focused in 80% of this course. So you should take action not to discriminate. You take action to avoid creating systems or technologies that disenfranchise or oppress people. Respect the work required to produce new ideas, inventions, creative works, and computing artifacts. This is another aspect that is problematic with most debated at the moment data-driven technology, that is ChatGPT, but also generative AI in general. Stable Diffusion has been sued by several artists because the output of the tool is based on appropriation, illegal appropriation of a myriad, on an enormous amount of work. Actually, this is a gray area of legislation in which there is still debate on whether training in copyright laws applies to training data. In Japan, in 2018, was decided that copyright laws, it doesn't apply to training data. As you know, copyright laws regards all artistic production of the human intellect, including software source code. Anyway, you should try to respect it as much as possible. This is a challenge to generative AI that collectively we should decide how to do it. Take into account that because of the public good, there might be some exceptions. Respect privacy, and I think the whole first part of the course it had shed light on how you can respect privacy. Take care that in this article you will find also the principle of data provenance, understand where the data comes from, and the data minimization. These are additional properties that are part of privacy. This concludes my focus on the ethical principles, in which we can stress again the fact that public good is the horizon, and there are several aspects in which you are required to have a very active role. Inequalities was also the focus in a few parts of it. From the ethical principles follow the responsibilities of professionals. The very first one is high quality work, and this is the responsibility of any professional in any domain. Do the work, do the best work as you can do, the best possible work that you can do. Software quality, for instance, is an aspect. I would like just to point you that not only the dignity and the quality should be not only for you employers, not only for you employees under you, colleagues, the clients, the users, but anyone that is affected directly or indirectly by the product and the processes that you follow to build the products. I'll come back later to this aspect because we have a little problem in AI at the moment on this aspect, in AI development, status quo of AI development. In the second section, you find justification for some criteria that I use in evaluating you. if you take, and I strongly recommend you, when you prepare for the exam, to take the very first, the general overview that I give you to the course and to the structure of exam and to the evaluation criteria. Among the evaluation criteria is that the way you communicate. You should be able to communicate in a synthetic and very clear way. Why? Professional competence starts with technical knowledge, only starts, and then continues with what? With awareness of the social context in which the work is deployed. I gave you several patterns of inequalities to provide you the social context that otherwise is left to your own knowledge of the world, that I assume to be not equal among you. So you build a technical knowledge mostly with other courses, in little pieces also with this one. Then you should apply the awareness of the social context in which you work and in which your application will be deployed. And then professional competence also requires skill in communication. This is a professional duty. It's not an ethical principle. It's a professional responsibility that you have. In reflective analysis, I spend every year a considerable amount of time on designing an exam that requires you the application of your critical thinking. Every exam is different from the other, so I think you understood now. They have a similar organization, a similar pattern, but all exams require that you apply critical thinking to it, recognizing and navigating ethical challenges. So this is an obligation, a professional responsibility. It's not my own choice. This is one of the most important ethical codes of conduct in our profession. The personal, I think, is the most important, but this is a personal opinion. Okay. I will now jump to 2.5. Give comprehensive and thorough evaluations of computer systems and their impacts, including analysis of possible risk. This is what you learn in this part through identification of measurement issues, discrimination issues. Again, it is highlighted that not only employers, employees, clients, and users, but the public in general should be taken into account. Attention, because you are a data scientist, extraordinary care should be taken to identify and mitigate potential risk in machine learning systems. There are different types of systems. They are based on an inductive epistemic approach, and this has some wonderful opportunities and some existing and dangerous risk embedded. Epistemic risk, and that follows system risk. Yes, please. You should put in place impact assessment, risk assessment. Devote enough money, organization. So when you organize the work, so I hope that maybe you will start as a developer, but then your responsibilities, you are a software engineer, so that will increase. You will be the leaders of the futures in IT. So you should plan enough activities and to identify the risk, to mitigate them. You will find uncertainty. There is no way to, there is no checklist. I mean, so that means extraordinary care that you should devote enough resources to do. Not only attention, mental attention, but resources, activities. Did I answer? This is shocking for the following sentence is shocking for someone. I don't think for you after you did this course. A system for which future risk cannot be reliably predicted requires frequent reassessment of risk as the system evolves in use, and this is the shocking part for someone, or you should not deploy it at all. There is an alternative. You don't deploy a system, at least with a given approach. You don't use. There is a public debate. I think that some of you came to the talk of the philosopher that now I don't remember even the name. I invite you to a talk to the Nexus Center a couple of weeks ago. Tafani, by Professor Daniela Tafani. I saw a few of people from this course that came. She showed how the principles to which the systems that predict social outcomes are illegitimate, are not legitimate. They are comparable to astrology at the moment. There is computer scientists that also are following this line of reasoning, providing empirical evidence. The definition of predictive optimizations was taken by a very recent study that will be presented actually in a few days in the most important conference in the sector, that is the Fairness, Accountability, Transparency Conference, ACM conference, so ACM of this association, in machine learning, FACTS, it's called. And this study was performed on more than 40 commercial tools, automated decision tools, checking what was advertised and checking what was the actual performance and the actual impact on people, analyzing more than 400 documents. And the result was that you could use a coin and launch it and take the output, and this was better than using such tools, commercialized tools. So this is not pessimism. This is the status of the art in prediction of social outcomes, not predictive maintenance in bridges. Wonderful, using machine learning there. Predicting social outcomes, what you will do tomorrow, whether you will be a good professional or not, whether you should be employed by a company using an automatic tool. This is the type of social outcomes. They have an intrinsic part of unpredictability. And then there are some other ethical aspects. I don't know personally whether in the future we will have better systems, but we should look at the moment at what is the evidence in this specific application. That is, again, I repeat, because I don't want to be taken as a techno-pessimist, I'm not, that is predicting social outcomes. And I'm sure that you will do better, I hope, after this course. There is also a responsibility on fostering public awareness of understanding of computing related technologies and their consequences. This is connected to your communication skills, but this gives an idea of the level of proactiveness that you are in theory required to have. This concludes the professional responsibilities, and now we'll have a bit quicker look at the professional leadership principles. As a leader, you have higher responsibilities. You can have a formal leader. It means that you are appointed by an organization to be the leader of a team, the leader of a project, the leader of an entire division of the company, the leader of the company at a certain point, maybe. Well, point one, again, ensure that the public good is the central concern during all professional computing work. For formal leaders, but also for informal leaders. That means when you achieved an influence, you are so good that you have influence on your colleagues, you are influencing your environment, you are respected for your technical knowledge, you are considered a leader as well. And again, the public good is your primary concern. People, that includes your customers, but not exclusively your customers, should always be the central concern in computing. And this is the first principle for leaders. And you should give explicit consideration at any stage of the product development: research, requirement analysis, design, implementation, testing, validation, deployment, maintenance, retirement, and disposal of IT systems. We jump to the end, to the last one: recognize and take special care of systems that become integrated into the infrastructure of society. Even the simplest computer system have the potential to impact all aspects of society when integrated with everyday activities, such as commerce, travels, government, healthcare, and education, and many more. We have seen a widespread usage in welfare, for instance, of data-driven systems. And the leaders, their leaders, when such tools becomes entangled with the way we live together, with the norms that regulate our life, the leaders have another responsibility to be good stewards of these systems. So not only good designers, but good stewards. Keep in mind that systems evolve, the technological context around you evolve, and you should be able to evolve with them. So always challenging what is the right thing to do. Even until the point that when appropriate standards, so this code gives you guidance throughout your career. You can take it and as a good companion for your career. But we might face new challenges. Automated weapon, AI that decides instead of us who to kill, for instance, is one of the very new challenges. When appropriate standards or care do not exist, computing professionals have a duty to ensure they are developed. So we might require new standards, new ethical standards, or amendments to this standard. We should take action because the future of computing depends on both technical and ethical excellence, not only technical expertise. Okay, I hope that this comment of the code will be helpful for the exam, first of all, and for your career in general. This ends the 25% of the lecture that is specific to the exam. I would like now to let you know that there are other broader initiatives that follow this code, directly or indirectly. They are important, I think, so I would be happy if you stay until the end of the lecture, but it's my commitment not to ask details about what follows from here. Okay? It's my endeavor to provide you also cultural aspects in this course and not only practical aspects to be asked at the exam. The open source movement is being very sensitive to the ethical impacts of the new digital technologies and suggested an Hippocratic license. You know that medical doctors have a code, an ethical code, is the Hippocratic code, and they following what is already a reality in that domain, they suggest the usage of a new type of license for source code for open source projects. And I just read this part: the software may not be used by individuals, corporations, government, or other groups for systems or activities that actively and knowingly endanger, harm, or otherwise threaten the physical, mental, economic, or general well-being of individuals or groups in violations of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So if you put this license in your code, whoever uses the code for automated weapons, for example, goes under license violations. So there is a legal implication of it. Similarly, the ethical source movement redefines a little bit the traditional definition of source code that is based upon four freedoms: the freedom to use, to redistribute the code, to modify it. And it adds this part: its creators have the right to prohibit its use by individuals or organizations engaged in human rights violations or other behavior that they deem unethical. So you can put such kinds of safeguards in the your source code. There are similar considerations that have been made in these last months here at Politecnico with Frontex, for example. Should we collaborate with an agency that has been declared to have violated the human rights? There is a quite active open debate at Politecnico because there are some scientific collaboration ongoing. Some tools have been developed to be used by Frontex, that is a European agency for preventing immigration, so controlling especially the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, by mapping with a very advanced cartography of the sea to be used in real time, and there is some concern about it. A tool with such a license could not be used in that project because Frontex has been, if I'm not wrong, has been some parts of Frontex have been even closed, have been condemned for human rights violations. That's just an example. There are then broader initiatives on ethics and governance of AI. The first step was taken by the European Union with this document, was drafted by 52 experts. Two of them are trustees of the Nexa Center, which defined what are the ethical guidelines for developing what they call a trustworthy AI, an AI that you can trust. But lawful, surprise. AI is a product, so must be lawful, of course. Then must be ethical, which are the principles, the ethical principles, and they identify some, and robust, technical robustness. These, the ethical principles were the base for the AI regulation that followed with most practical requirements, but all started from this work that lasted more than 1 year. And then we have a set of principles that have been elaborated: human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, societal and environmental well-being, and accountability as high-level principles that you can find if you are interested in this link. Australian ethical AI principles are very similar and are referred as a very good ethical code of development for AI. And we can find very similar principles. We can find some difference here on human-centered values, but then they call again back the human rights, the diversity, autonomy of individuals. They add the contestability. You should be able to contest a decision made by an AI system or machine learning system. The Montreal Declaration is a bit less shy towards certain implications. It's a bit more direct when speaking about sustainable development principles, writing about harms to the environment, for example. It calls the solidarity principles. That was the principle that we have seen also in the ethical code of ACMM. It highlights democratic participations in the design of tools and in the accessibility of certain aspects of AI tools. For example, explanations of a given decision that should not be technical, but should be accessible to all. Caution principle. This is also different with the other codes. Even thinking of not developing a tool if this is too harmful. There are many, many others. The Berkham Center for Internet Society analyzed about 50, but there are even more than 100, and extrapolated the main recurring topics that are, just for your knowledge: privacy, accountability, safety and security, transparency, explainability, fairness and non-discrimination, professional responsibility, and promotion of human values. High-level principles that then are better defined. There is even, in February, a few months ago, there was these principles are now also enshrined in a larger declaration, that is the European Declaration on Digital Rights and Principles. It took also inspiration from the Italian initiative of the Internet Bill of the Bill of Internet Rights and Duties, that was approved with an amendment from the one of the chambers of the Italian Parliament a few years ago. And also on that occasion, the Nexa Center, in primis Professor De Martin, had a very active role in defining this bill. It was the very first in Europe. Only and the second in all over the world. Only the Marco Civil in Brazil was a previous initiative. All these charts are wonderful because they strive they give direction to a development of artificial intelligence that is respectful of human rights. They have some limitations because there are very big problems that are somehow either neglected or only very, in a very shy way, a very not direct way addressed. For example, indecent work. Dignity of employees was one of the principles of the that were listed in the ACM Code of Conduct. We have a huge problem in AI with labelers, human labelers that are, especially in content moderation field, they work in very bad conditions, not only from the economic point of view, but also from the psychological point of view. Imagine watching for 8 hours a day videos of violence, physical violence on minors, and either directly remove them from platform or instruct the algorithms to remove it. So training, helpful in labeling. This is the reality. This is the reality of how the big companies are facing content moderation, and in general are using work in the global south to label the massive amount of data that they need. And this is just one of many others articles about that. We will have on 16th of June a guest at the Nexa Center with a public seminar at 5 p.m. She's a researcher that works, she's one of the most important in this field, and she will explain in detail what is the work of a clicker work, they are called also, a data labeler. She did extensive studies in South America, for example. Copyright were already mentioned, and in a broader sense, there is a massive privatizations of the work of thousands of people, millions of people, because the new models take for training whatever they can, whatever they are able to be, whatever data they are able, even through commercial contracts, so not only through data that is already on the web. More in general, there are issues of social responsibility that is evaded by the big players in AI, liability. What is the responsibility for a crash of a car that is partially driven by AI? We don't know yet, but it seems that normal liability principles, they do not apply in the AI field, and this is not at the moment right. Mass appropriation of resources, as I said, is socialization of risk and damages environment, first of all, because of the huge impact of large models, for instance. A study that was made on Alexa highlighted that just to train a system one time, the system like Alexa is equivalent to go back and forth from New York to Beijing for more than 500 times in terms of emissions. You can imagine with ChatGPT. There are some data, and if you're curious, just Google it, and it's quite impressive. Proper taxation and economic distribution. Huge amount of economic power that is equivalent to the size of a state economy. Taxation, very little. There was a year in which Amazon paid zero in US as taxes. And this is a problem. This is that goes much beyond, of course, the issues that we have seen during the course. But I wanted to give you a wider landscape with this final lecture. Innovation and competition are killed at the moment, seems by the major players, even by acquisition, direct acquisition. Concentration of power, which is a consequence of the huge economic wealth that has been accumulated, and in general, the impact on our democratic processes. What will happen to our infosphere with the advent of generative AI, we really don't know. We really don't know. It took 30 years of history of the web to build the web that we know, and this is already problematic, with tools that can be, in a very scalable way, can write thousands of documents, fake documents, for a given purpose. We really don't know what will happen to our democratic processes. Again, I'm not techno-pessimist. I use ChatGPT for certain tasks. It's really helpful. But I think that there are also serious dangers involved. I conclude, and I will conclude with this slide. At the very beginning of the course, I showed you this metaphor. And I use this metaphor to let you understand that as any other engineering disciplines, we cannot only look at a tool from the technical point of view. I told you, like an engineer that should design and develop a highway should not look only at the capacity of the highway, number of lanes, type of concrete, should look at also the impact, the societal impact. And on those disciplines, this aspect is very mature. So there are impact studies, risk studies that are given before you build such an infrastructure, and also to avoid problems like this. My goal is that at the end of this course, you fully understand this picture and the metaphor that I used. If not, well, it's my fault, don't worry, but please help me and use the surveys, the student surveys that you have, to provide me feedback, suggestions. If this was not clear, the fact that I did my best doesn't mean that the results was the best possible result. I can tell you that I take very seriously the feedback surveys, and I restructured part of this course this year based on the surveys of the last 2 years. And I put 4 explicit exercise sessions on past exams, exclusively on past exams. I removed all other types of exercise because I understood that also looking at the failure rates, there is a problem. And so I hope that we remove that problem. And but this is just an example, practical example, that I will take your feedback seriously, but use the survey also seriously in a meaningful and constructive way. And that concludes the course, and we'll have the session tomorrow. That is in the way that I described you earlier. I thank you for active participation to the course, and I wish you success in the exam, but also success and a responsible career for your future. Thank you, and all the best for the exam. Well, if you have questions, as usual, I will stay here until then.